Where did the boss go?
I'm right here. Now who? Oh, she's right there. But the boss is here.
So we have to behave today, is that what you're saying?
What?
Behave today?
Nah. You put something.
Fine. Oh, shoot.
No problem. Put this on so I can clip it. All right. Glad to have all y'all with us. So today, I'm going to share some innovative ways to find and actually be able to buy rental properties. So 2 months ago, that would be August, we talked about how rental properties can build your wealth and all the different ways through, I'll show you right here, through cash flow, appreciation, paying down your debt, tax savings, all of that rentals can grow your net worth, grow your wealth. And so that was more of a high level overview. Got a lot of people excited about having rentals. Some people that already had rentals that maybe were a little burned out, reinvigorated them. So we're going to start right here, but today we're going to go more in depth, and I'm going to share some strategies, some tools, some different things. So this was a slide from the last time I talked about your total wealth built with having rentals. So in this example, 10 rental properties. Year one, through cash flow, appreciation, equity paid down, and tax savings, you're building $156,000 in wealth. And this just shows over time, year 10, $288,000 built per year. Year 20, $470,000 built in wealth per year, just off of owning 10 properties. So it's definitely a long-term thing, but it's super powerful because that's every single year. That's not a one-time you sell them and you're done. That's every single year. So starting from there, we're going to talk today about the best sources to find good deals. We're going to focus on rental properties because you can look at finding deals that you can wholesale, a little bit different. Some of these strategies I wouldn't necessarily recommend. And then we're going to talk about how to fund a rental portfolio. So today, like I said, in contrast to last time, I'm giving away lots of resources, tools, contacts, things like that. The only thing I don't have on here is contacts for lenders because it's more nuanced based on what you're trying to do. But I have my phone number at the end so y'all can reach out. Happy to help any of y'all with a lender. All right. So we're going to start with finding the deal. So when you're looking to find a deal, you basically got two paths you can go down to find deals. You can do marketing, or you could do what I call targeted networking. Not just showing up to some networking thing once a week and everyone sends their employees and you share business, and targeted networking. Because if your goal is to find rental properties that you can buy, you want to be networking with specific people. So we'll look at the marketing route, but we'll cover the other one afterwards. So first thing you got to do, you got to come up with a list that you're going to market to. So probably the most common way to build a list of properties and property owners to market to is just to buy it. So I'll give you all the website here in just a little bit. But basically, you can buy a list from many different places. And if you're looking to acquire rental properties, you can filter it down to properties that would fit. So you can target the neighborhoods you like. Now, on this point, you could just, if you're more experienced, you may say, hey, I already own some here. I like this area, so I want to buy more there. Or you could look at rent to cost. You could look at the average rent in the neighborhood, the average cost of a property, and kind of fish in the ponds that have the most to catch. So you can narrow it down to people that own multiple properties. That's the only people you want on your list. Maybe you want to buy a few from active landlords. Non-owner occupied, you can say how much equity if you want them to have at least 30% equity so that you know that they have the ability to sell it to you at a good discount. You can even filter by property type. So you could get all the properties, you could focus on self-storage, you could focus on houses, duplexes, apartments, whatever you want. So these are all things I'll show you the source. Batch skip tracing is what we use, and we have some other sources to get lists, but we use this one. And so you can filter all these things and get exactly the list narrowed down of the people you want to market to. And I was playing around on there. They actually have these little segments, these quick filters. So you can go on the map and they have a list for tired landlords. I don't know what the criteria is for that, but it's probably non-institutional landlords, just mom and pops. Maybe they have multiple properties in their personal name, something like that. They have that list, 1,359 people on that list that you can market to. So there's cool things. There's kind of some easy buttons. You don't have to figure all this out. And that's also one of my goals for sharing today, is that I don't want to just leave y'all with an idea. I want to give you all the tools and resources that you can take it from here and say, okay, if I want to do this, this is step 1, step 2, this is the cost. So you can kind of pick what game plan you want to implement. Okay, other way to build the list is driving for dollars. You can create your own list. And the good thing about that is this is a list that no one else has. So I have a buddy in Florida, and he has, I think, somewhere around 5,000 leads in his marketing, which, you know, you can buy a list of 10,000 leads and have more, but he has 5,000 leads that he drove around, looked at, took down the address, and now it's in their system. So you can identify distressed properties. Just there's lots of stuff you can find out there on driving for dollars. The kind of the gold standard for it is Deal Machine. So Deal Machine is a driving for dollars app with other stuff in it. So if you want to go around and build your own lists that no one else can buy, no one else has, unless they're driving for dollars as well, Deal Machine, it'll track where you've driven, what streets you've driven. You can pull up a property, you can get the owner's name, you can get how much equity they have, you can get all kinds of info within the app.
I've always been worried that that's how they create their list, is from the stuff I don't currently have Deal Machine. I used it for years. I always it was like a really good looking one, bad looking one. I was like, I wonder if that's how they generate their list.
I don't know. I do know the owner, so I could ask him and see, but I doubt it.
I was like, there's a couple times I had that happen. I'm like, I'm just gonna write this one down.
So as I was putting together some stuff on them for the presentation, I started getting hit with their Facebook ads. So I know they're good at tracking, you know, what people are doing.
Like you can take a picture and send directly to.
Yes.
You know, costs $1 to send the postcard straight to them. Like, we use it for a while. Just makes you busy there.
Yeah. So that's another feature on there. If you're at the property, you could go knock on the door. You could leave a flyer, or you could just take a picture of it and you can mail it from Deal Machine. So pretty cool. And I've actually gotten postcards with pictures of my properties on them that people sent through Deal Machine. And they're like, is this your property? And it's a picture of the house. What in the world? You know, did they take the time? So it's a cool tool. So that's just for building the list. So when you're building the list, there's still multiple ways you can reach out to them. And we'll get into that. But Deal Machine is probably the go-to for driving for dollars. And again, I'll go back real quick. So you can target your neighborhood. You can target where you want to own properties specifically. You can get really focused. I always say that's an advantage of newer investors, is you have time. You have the ability to just hone in on a couple of leads and just work them. Whereas people that maybe have more leads or have more rehabs going on and less time to do it, they can't zero in and focus as much. So I always say that's an advantage of newer people. All right, so we built the list. Now we're going to reach the list. So I'm going to talk about two main things: direct mail and cold calling. There's obviously a lot more ways to reach your list, but these are the two that I'm going to give some tips on today. So direct mail, there's yellowletters.com. They've been around forever. They're pretty easy. They're kind of like more of an a la carte website, I would say. So if you just want to dabble a little bit, Yellow Letters is pretty good. You can go on there, fairly user friendly. They've got templates. Let me show the templates real quick. So they got these templates where you don't have to be a graphic designer or anything like that. You can just go on their website, paste your face right there, your phone number, send it out. You're good. So Yellow Letters is a good one. Their cost for postcards, they do it as you get more and more. It's cheaper per unit. So $1.33 for anything under 200 and 60 cents for anything over 2,500. And that's per batch that you send out. So to get the cheaper cost one, it's $1,500 you would have to spend minimum. So, but they're a good resource kind of if you do want to do more customization, take it at your own pace. The other one is REI print mail. So I have not used them. I have used Yellow Letters, but I've talked to them and I've been very impressed. So I'm not currently doing direct mail, but when I do, there's a good chance I'll use REI print mail. So what's different about them, their cost is roughly the same, maybe a little bit more as Yellow Letters, but they have a campaign success manager type thing, which it helps them make more sales because you're going to order for them more. But they will do a follow-up program for your mailing. So they'll have 7-8 mailers scheduled. First one goes out day 1, second one goes out after a month, third one goes out after another 45 days, whatever you set. So they have a little bit more automation if you want to just put a little bit more money behind it and schedule it and set it. And they also have people that will go over your data with you, that will look at who's calling you off of the letters, what's the response like, what's the market response like, what do we need to tweak. So they really help you make sure you succeed. So, and I'm going to send this presentation out too, so everyone will have it, but that's REI print mail. All right, then we got cold calling. So I've got 3 options for cold calling. You got the do-it-yourself, which is smartphone, and we use this as our phone system in my company. You've got the outsourced to, you give them a list, they'll call it, 1000callsaday.com. And then you've got the, I'll call it more turnkey, lead mining pros. They will pull a list for you. They will cold call the list. They will text the list. They'll do everything, and it's pay as you go. So smartphone is just a phone system. So it's just like AT&T with the cell phone. That's what smartphone is. But it's digital. It integrates with a few of the big CRMs, and they have a multi-line dialer. So if you got a list, you want to cold call your list, you can call 4 people at one time through smartphone. Whoever picks up the phone first, the other 3 calls drop. So it lets you get through a lot more of your list instead of waiting 30 seconds as the phone rings, and then they didn't answer and you're on to the next one. So that one really is if you're doing it yourself to save a bunch of time. 1,000 calls a day. They finally kind of stopped following up with me, but these people have called me on a follow-up campaign for years. It's just like clockwork. They're on it. So that's why I put them in here, because they are on their follow-up. You don't have to, I don't have a question about them following up with leads. And theirs is $1,900 a month. So you give them a list. Now it says 1,000, but really they make about 500 calls a day. But they'll do that every single day with a list that you give them. So for that, you probably need a list of about 5,000 per month for them. So if you're going to build your own list and you're going to drive for dollars, or you're going to do some other way to build your own list and not just buy data, you're going to have a hard time keeping up. So if you're going to build your own, you might want to call yourself. If you're going to be buying it, you might want to outsource it. And then lead mining pros, I have worked with them. It's pay as you go. So you basically say, hey, I want to pay $300. They'll make 1,000 calls. They'll send 500 texts. It's a list of roughly 500-600 people. So, and you can just do that in chunks. You do a little campaign with them, see how it goes. You can re-up it. What I like about them is they have discounts for if you want Filipinos, or if you want Americans to do it. So Americans are about double the cost of that. That's the Filipino price. So just kind of depends on your flavor, your style. Any questions before I move on?
By the time you pay all of those premiums, does it pay off for you?
Well, how much would you make on a deal?
Well, I don't know. I'm asking you, does it pay off for you?
Yeah. So if you can make, now you can use these as in wholesaling too. So if you make $10,000 on a wholesale, then you've got your marketing covered. If you go the most expensive one, you got your marketing covered for 5 months. So, and if they're only producing one deal in 5 months, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So it should be.
How much a month is it?
$1,900 for that turnkey one.
You wouldn't rather have the 1,900
Versus what?
versus anything.
I mean, I care about results more than anything. So, you know, if you're paying $1,500 versus $1,900 versus even $3,000, but one of those three is going to get you twice as many deals, then the margins are there on the deals. So I just go with whatever gives the best results.
That's pretty expensive.
Yeah. Yep. Time or money. Okay. So we went the marketing route. So now targeted networking. So that's a group like this. So targeted networking, you want to meet other landlords is the simple way to put it. You want to meet people that have properties that are in the real estate game, that are doing deals, and just stay in touch with them and stay top of mind. So I'm going to share 2 examples from my business today. This is the first one. So this is how I bought a package of rentals twice from the same guy, not the same properties. The first time I bought 4 or 5. The second time I bought 5 from him. They were about a year, 2 years apart. And this is a guy, super savvy investor, ultra wealthy. He's been in real estate for, I think, 30 to 40 years. Just done really well for himself. Builds homes, had some rental properties. And so I met up with him, and we didn't make a deal the first time, but he had a bunch of properties. So I just said, hey, you know, what can you teach me? Kind of took that approach of hey, it didn't work out on this deal, but love to keep in touch with you and love to learn from you if you're open to that. A lot of people that have been doing this a while, they're open to teaching. They kind of feel good passing on what they know to the next generation. So I just stayed in touch with him, and then he had I think it was a sister-in-law. His wife's sister, I believe, was mooching at one of his properties. So she was renting from them. Family was renting from him and didn't pay. It's all this family drama because you can evict a tenant, but can you evict your sister-in-law? You know, so everyone runs into these type of scenarios. So I was just keeping in touch with him. I wasn't calling him every month like, hey, you ready to sell those properties yet? You know, I wasn't like that, but just keeping in touch with him and seeing what he's up to. And then I'm top of mind. As soon as that happened, he's like, you know what? I'm kind of tired of having some tenants. You know, I like just building my new homes where there's no people involved. There's just, you get the work done and you sell it and you're done. And so I was able to buy that package off of him. A couple years later, I was able to buy another package off of him. But a lot of people have the limiting belief that one investor who's doing well can't sell to another investor who's also doing well, and both of them are savvy, and people think that, you know, you just have to do business with people that don't know what they're doing, and that's definitely not the case. So targeted networking, if you're looking to get rentals, can be huge because there's lots of different ways to structure a win-win. I'll share one a little bit later, how I acquire certain properties, but there's lots of ways that you can make it work. So the question that I just posed is, you know, why would 2 savvy investors do business? Why would someone that owns properties sell it to you and allow you to make cash flow on them? Why wouldn't they squeeze out every penny out of the deal? And there's lots of reasons. So they don't want to manage. I'll just pull up the list. They have other opportunities. Maybe their strategy changed. So sometimes people go from being a landlord to they just want to be a note holder. Maybe they just want to owner finance everything they own. They don't want to deal with the tenants. Problem property, it's kind of a combo of a problem property and his strategy change, the ones that I bought, the package. Or return on equity is low. That's something that I talk about, and it's something that I track. And we're actually selling some rentals because the return on equity is low. So just for us, to answer this question, why would I be able to buy properties from someone like Austin or some other investor that's just held these rentals long term? So I'll give you a couple of specific examples. One property, it's a great rental, want to keep it, but it's in a portfolio loan, and I can't refinance it out of the loan. I have so much equity in it that for the little cash flow that we're getting, it's just not worth not touching that equity. So that one, can't refi it because it's in the package of the portfolio loan, so I have to sell it. Another one, same situation. It's an okay rental property, but I've just got equity in it. So my return on equity is low. I could refinance it or I could just sell it. And so you get people in these scenarios like me. I have 3 of them under contract, and the buyer, super savvy guy. He's had rentals way longer than I have. He only buys good deals, but they're in an area that's gone up, and I'm happy with the sales price because when I bought them, I thought that sales price was crazy. He's happy because he knows what the market is today. And, we're both coming out okay on them. So there's lots of different reasons that if you're in touch and you have a good pulse with someone that has properties that they'd want to sell to you. So I'm going to move on to the funding part, but any questions before I go forward?
You said you sold that one out of the portfolio that had a loan for
yes.
the whole portfolio. So how does that work when you sell part of that portfolio? Assuming that the lender had a lien on that property.
Yes. So you do a partial payoff. So this lender will allow me to sell 1 property, 2 properties separately, but they won't allow me to refinance it. So when I sell it, they'll just pay off whatever that portion of the total loan was. Okay. All right, let's talk about how to fund it. These are typically the 2 things: finding deals, funding deals. So I'm going to go over kind of the standard way of for a smart investor to fund rental properties. I'll share a really cool strategy as well that I bought a couple of properties with. All right, so standard way. You're going to go to a hard money lender, private lender. You're going to purchase the property. They'll loan you up to 75% of the after repair value. Pretty standard. Same deal if you were flipping the property. And then you'll do the work, you'll rehab it, and then you go to a bank and refinance it out. So I don't think that's a new strategy for anyone, right? A lot of people talk about this. A lot of people know this. Getting into the numbers though, you can get up to 75% of the ARV from your hard money lender, typically. They all have different deals that they do. But when you refinance at a bank, most local banks will give you 80% of the actual value. And so, which that's a good thing. So you can get your whole deal funded with a hard money lender, and you can take out additional money because you can get more leverage whenever you refinance. And the cool thing about banks, so they can be tough to work with, but the cool thing about them, a lot of times they'll just either do a BPO or an internal evaluation. They won't make you get a full appraisal. So why that matters is speed and just way easier to work with. Appraisals can take a long time. They're difficult. It's just a hassle. When I go to a bank and they say, yeah, we do internal evaluations, music to my ears, because it's just way easier to work with those. The weird thing about banks is, okay, the reason you go to a private lender or hard money lender and not a bank on your purchase, they make you bring 20% equity almost all the time. So they're going to make you bring usually cash to the deal when you're buying it. And most banks are set in stone. They're not going to change that. That's their way of doing things. But when you go to refinance, if you already own a property, Like let's say you use a line of credit or you use whatever to buy the property. They don't care how much you owe on it, how much you paid for it. They'll give you 80% of what it appraises for. So on one side, they're super strict and restrictive. But then once you own a property, then they're just like, yeah, we'll give you 80%, whatever. So they're really good to work with on the back end. I don't know why they do that, but.
Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
So the reason why they do that is they've been in it longer than most people that invested in the market with low, cheap rates and rising house prices. At one point, one day, a lot of younger investors and things like that have experienced cheap cash and rising house prices year after year after year. So the banks, the reason why they are where they are, because they want an investor coming in, they want them to have that 20%. They want them to have skin in the game. They're a hard money lender. 12%. Hey, by the way, I need you to borrow money for the remodel costs as well. You're borrowing that too. And we're packaging it up and send it to a lender. Remember, that's why. So that's the, I'll be honest, I think today's real estate investors, you're just watching it. And to me, or him, or anybody else who's been around, it's been two periods of time where you got rising variable rates on an asset that you own, that's appreciating value. That's when a red caution sign come up. And the banks protect you from that. That's why, the banks want to protect you. They want you in a strong position in that position. And a lot of times today, people want that position. Whether it's way over their heads, the rates that are rising on an asset that's increasing. And that spells, years of hard work, everybody here puts in stuff in a minute, you lose your portfolio. And that's why the banks, they're really protection, help you, but at the same time, that's why. That's why. And in the last 3 to 5 years, it's been too easy. Let's go to this guy, let's get the down payment money, let's borrow remodel money, let's buy the asset, 3.5% interest rate, we'll turn around, we'll go to the bank man, we'll do that, and buy 10 more. One day, that formula's not going to work. That's why the bank's out. So, I believe in that. I think it's the service today that I think some people are going to get hurt in the next 6 to 18 months. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. The banks give you variable rates as well, investment variable rate. That's going to be climbing. And then a lot of people fool themselves with the Airbnb business. Well, I don't have to make the numbers work at $1,300 a month rent. I can Airbnb it $2,100 a month, the whole portfolio. So I don't have to make the numbers work because I can get this amount like it's magic. What's going to happen is when that house price goes down, that place starts to sit empty, unless the Airbnbs, now they can't make the numbers work. I want to leave that. That's really, I'll be honest, everybody, that's some stuff that should be talked about as well, as far as you don't want to see people get hurt. And I hate to see that in the next 6 to 18 months, people like him that have come along and be those great deals. That's why, why am I paying $1,600 a month? Because you're in a situation you want to pay that from them. Just go around and packing it and scoop up all the carnage, and reset. That's straight talk, brother.
Thanks. All right. So we've talked about seller financing in here a lot before too. So that's another way to fund deals. Good thing about seller finance, you don't need to qualify with the lender. The property doesn't have to qualify. The seller just has to trust you and make an agreement with you, and they'll finance it to you. So we won't go too much in depth on that one. We've broken it down a lot more in depth, and we probably will again, but that's just a really good option for funding rental properties. So the fourth one, this is how I've been able to buy some of the best deals that I've bought that might have been a stretch for me to buy before, is working with the seller to creatively finance. So basically how this works is you get a property that cash flows well, and usually the way I've applied this is on bigger properties, on an apartment building or mobile home park. I'll show you an example of mobile home park I have. And if it cash flows well, and you can make the numbers work, the bank will finance their 80% and the seller will finance 20% on the back end. I've done this structure a handful of times, and this has gotten me into some of the best deals that I have. So on a $200,000 property, so the bank will give you 80%, they'll give you $160,000, and you can get the seller to finance $40,000, so you're in for zero out of pocket. So why this works in a lot of cases is the seller might have bought that property for $110,000 5 years ago, Maybe now they owe $100,000 on it. So they're selling it for, you know, $200,000, way more than they ever imagined that they would get for the property. So they're happy. And you're paying off their loan with that $160 that you're bringing to closing. You're paying off their loan. They're getting, you know, $60,000 in their pocket. And then the rest to them is just the cherry on top, the $40,000. I actually sold a property like this one time, and it was, I didn't finance 20%. I financed maybe 3%, 5%, and they ended up not paying us back. But the sales price that we were able to get was just so crazy good that I was happy. And so that's how I saw it as well, was, you know, I'm counting on what they're bringing to closing, and the rest is just kind of gravy if they do it. If they don't, you're fine. So a lot of the landlords that you'll work with, they're in that situation. They've got so much equity that if you structure a deal like that, they're like, great, let's do it. They don't care that the bank has the primary lien and their second lien.
Another aspect of that is the seller is going to pay taxes on $60K profit, roughly, in this case. And the other $40K, assuming they actually get that profit later on, is going to be a different tax year.
Yep.
So it might actually be beneficial for them.
Wouldn't you pay the tax based on the sales price?
No, I think it's based on their income, because when they owner finance a property, they're paying tiny amounts of taxes every year. That's one of the things we tout on owner finance offers is, you know, if you want to get away from that big tax bill. All right, so I'm going to show y'all a mobile home park that we own right now. It's 56 units. We bought it with this exact method of funding. And if I didn't have this method of funding, we wouldn't have been able to buy it. So it was basically, we figure out how to make this deal work, because the numbers on the deal are incredible. But we figure out how to get this financed, or we just pass on it. And I don't like passing up on good opportunities. There's almost always a way to make it work. So I'll show y'all all the numbers. So we bought it for $425,000. That was the agreed on sales price with the seller. So I got a lender, and they loaned me $313,000 on it. And so normally you would have to come up with the difference there of $112,000. That was not feasible for me to buy this property. So I got the seller to do a carryback for $128,000. So they did a second position owner finance loan of $128,000. That equals $441,000 that I got financed. So that's more than the purchase price. So what we did is we got about $16,000 back for improvements to the park. And so particularly this park, it had 19 vacant spots, 37 of the 56 occupied. So it's cash flowing from day one, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And so we're actually currently moving in a bunch of houses to this park right now.
How much repairs did you have to do?
What was that?
How much repairs?
So we've repaired the road. We've done some water lines, right? Not too much stuff, but it's for buying the homes and moving homes in.
Is it in the city? Is it on city utilities?
Yes. Yep. So yeah, structuring it like this, if I hadn't have structured it like this, I would have had to bring over $100,000 to buy the property, and I would have had to just pass on it. But since I got seller financing, I was actually able to get money back at closing when I bought this property. And the big caveat that I said, and this is kind of what Bob was talking about, is it has to cash flow. You have to have a solid base on the property. So we bring in about $9,500 a month on this property. The total for both of these payments is $4,200 a month. And that's, as it sits right now, we're moving in 19 homes. That income's going to go way up. It's going to be an awesome deal. ARV on this one is 1.2 million. So if I didn't have that knowledge of different ways to finance this, and if I would have just said, oh, can't afford it, and move on down the road, we would have never had this opportunity to do this massive value add and all the equity that's on this property. So I wanted to share a specific example of a deal I've done, because I just want to show you that the stuff that I talk about up here is stuff that I've applied. It's stuff that, you know, it's not just like, that sounds cool, I might try that and see if it works out. It's stuff that I've tested and used, and that basically helped me get this property, has helped me get other properties. So I'm telling y'all stuff that I've personally done and I've seen work. So.
Do you still have that?
I do. Yeah, we're moving in homes right now.
How many spaces are
56.
56?
Yes, sir.
How many you got on in there now?
37.
You got a lot of room to grow.
Yep. Absolutely.
So in this case, why would the seller give you the lease back? You got a pretty good purchase price. You overpaid.
Well, so the reason it's cash flowing now is because we raised lot rents. I don't know what they were before, but they're at $250 right now. And they might have been at $200, $190, maybe even less. So especially on mobile home parks, it's very common that if it's not properly run, the price you're buying at is more than it's worth when you buy it. So like that price was probably right about what it was worth whenever I bought it. And it's been a lot of work. I mean, I've owned it for maybe a year, and we're just now getting those 19 spaces filled. So because I don't want to go pay for brand new homes, I want to find good deals on mobile homes and move them in. But so it's not just like easy. So, and I think the people that got it had inherited it from family, and yeah, they weren't going to move in homes. Mobile homes are not that mobile. They move like 1 or 2 times in their life. So
you're collecting lot rent on the 37, but you're going to actually rent out the homes.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Because we'll own them. All the homes in here are tenant owned, except for 4 that are doing rent to own agreement. So they basically own them.
Are your spaces limited to what size is mobile homes you can put on it?
Yes, that's a challenge that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Some of the ones we bought are really long, like 70 something feet long. So, yep. Did you have something?
Here's what the actual bid value. There's no mobile homes on it.
That is a great question. I have no clue.
To be honest, if I was to ever get something like that, I think you're going to find in the next 3 to 5 years, packing mobile homes again, they're appreciating that. So mobile homes get
Yes.
They're very high maintenance, they're very high everything. So the rent pulling in on something you buy 5 years ago, with blessing on that land. And then you put into it and get back. Not break even, you might make a little something and then put it back and say, so the land value, you bought it at land value and everything else did, and that's the gain right there at that point. That's 5 years.
Cash flow is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the cash flow is insane for what
Oh, yeah.
such a higher, it's a riskier game.
I have seen opportunities for that on certain properties. Like if they're in the path of progress and they've got 10, 20 mobile homes on them, yep. Just hold them, keep it as a rental until that right developer comes through. Yeah, that's something I can't calculate. That would just be one day someone comes in and says, here's what I'll pay for it. And then, okay. Sounds like we need to do some mobile home. We need to do a mobile home topic 1 month. So, all right. I'm going to recap, and if y'all have any questions, feel free to ask them. So we can talk about how to build a list through either driving for dollars or buying a list, how to market, talked about direct mail, cold calling, targeted networking, and also why certain investors would be willing to give you a good deal on a property, and then different ways that you can fund a deal. So before we wrap up and announce next month, did anyone have any more questions? Cool. All right. Well, that's it. I think we're right on the dot. Yeah, right at 1 o'clock. So we'll plan to be here at noon again, November 15th. It's always the 3rd Tuesday of the month. And I don't know what our topic will be, but we'll figure it out between now and then. So thanks for coming out. See y'all next time.
If you guys ever have topics
Yeah.
Post it on the page.
Love to hear about them.
Message Austin, message me. 'Cause we're all